Hey guys, it's Alyssa here, and today I shall be talking about the most recent books that I just couldn't get into. I decided to film today because I am the most frustrated I've ever been in my entire life, and I kind of want to scream and just really want to just So I was like, hey, let's film a video where I rant about things that I didn't like. I actually not that long ago came out with one of these videos. That video was pre-filmed from a long time ago, probably like a month before it even got uploaded. But I recently have been working on like a little project type thing, and I've just read a lot of books that were not it. The first one is Stars Above by Marissa Meyer. This is the combination of novellas in the Lunar Chronicles series, and I got like 100 pages in. Honestly, it wasn't that it was bad, I just didn't care. I just didn't want to know. If I had read the novellas before I had finished the series, maybe I would have liked to have owned it, but I didn't, and I just didn't care. I think I got like 120 pages in, and I just wasn't really feeling it, so I stopped reading it. The next book is Chakaholic by Carrie Fisher. This is a book that I'm trying to read this month for Nonfiction November, and sadly I DNF'd it. I think I DNF'd it 24 pages in, which at first you're like, wow, that's really soon. But it's only like 180 pages, so it's really not. There wasn't really anything necessarily wrong with this book. It didn't feel drastically different from her other memoirs. I just personally didn't really care for her talking about her weight and her weight journey. It was a lot of negative talk about weight, and I know she meant it to be funny, and at the time maybe it would have been funny, but just reading it now, not something I want to read about. Doesn't make me feel great, and it's something I know that she always continued to have struggled with, and just was never a positive thing. I didn't feel like, oh well, I could just skip this part, because I knew a lot of the other things in the memoir, so I was like, why keep reading it? Because I kind of read her memoirs out of order. I read The Princess Diarist, and then I read the first one, and then this is like the middle memoir, or like second memoir, so I already knew, and a lot of it was already hinted at through the other two, and I was just like, I just don't want to really keep reading about negative weight talk. It just wasn't my jam. The next one is another book I tried to read for Nonfiction November, and that is In the Sanctuary of Outcasts by Neil White. This wasn't, I didn't get very far into it. I just wasn't liking it. I didn't particularly want to read about the prisoners. There might have come to have been like redeeming qualities about them later on, but I didn't want to get to that point. I just, once I heard about the one inmate's story and why he was in there, and basically he used a dangerous drug to get people to lose weight, I was like, again, negative weight talk, and I just wasn't into it. I really wasn't feeling it this month, I guess, so I couldn't do it. The next one is The Widow by Fiona Barton, and this was a little bit of a shocking one. I wasn't quite expecting to DNF this. Could this thriller have been really good for me? Yes. I think it is written extremely well. I think if I read something outside of this series, because apparently this is a series for Fiona Barton, if she wrote another book outside of this series, I would be very interested, because I think it is extremely well written, and that is why I got as far into it as I did, which was like 40-50 pages in. It was really well written, but I didn't like the format of it. I didn't like how much I knew in the very beginning. It didn't really feel very thriller-esque. It felt more of like a mystery detective novel, and there's a time and a place for those, but I was expecting a thriller and I didn't really get it. I don't know if that was supposed to happen, and then it was like supposed to focus on the characters a lot, but it was just weirdly formatted. It focused a lot on like the characters, and I didn't really quite know why. Finding out afterwards that this turns into like a series and that the detective and the reporter pop up again made more sense. But at the time I was like, well, I don't care about this. The writing wasn't bad, so if you don't mind knowing a lot of things up front about thrillers and don't mind that like mystery detective, like slow-paced setting, then go ahead. But for me, I'd rather watch something like that. I'd rather watch a setting like that where it's very like stereotypical, like British detective thing on TV. It doesn't translate well to books for me. I prefer more thrillers than like mysteries, if that makes any sense. The next book is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, and I did not expect to DNF this, and I DNF'd it very, very early, and for an oddly very, very specific reason. The way it starts off, if you don't want to know anything about this book, if you want to go into it completely blind, skip to the next book, because I'm going to talk about it. I was only 8 pages in, so it's not like I knew anything crazy. But it starts off with one of the main characters, one of the POVs, talking about how she kissed her married boss. It just irritated me because like it wasn't like seen from the perspective of like, oh my god, how could he do that to me? Like, how could like he do that? Oh my god, I feel so bad, blah 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 blah. I can't believe that just happened. It was more like, oh wow, I can't believe I just did that, but like also he was kind of hot though, and like I was kind of feeling it and I was kind of into it, and I'm like, what? But then like it wasn't, the author wasn't trying to make her a bad person, which like if you tell me a character's a bad person, we could be okay. I don't mind reading about morally gray or just outright characters. Prime example, My Lovely Wife. Terrible people, but you know that from the very beginning. You know that you're not going into it to love any characters or to care for any characters. What annoyed me was the main character kind of excusing away her behavior, it felt like, and just not really like owning up to it. It felt like it just felt weird and uncomfortable, and I'm not a person who minds reading about cheating. It's not that at all. Like I don't mind reading about that in books. It's just either show extreme remorse or don't, but don't do a middle of the ground thing where you're like trying to excuse away your behavior because you want to do it. Just like do it or don't, and then feel bad, or don't feel bad, but like don't do the middle of the ground. It's like not good for me. Like thank the Lord I didn't finish it, because apparently it has the weirdest ending. I was like, okay, I'm curious how this like unfolds, and I am so glad I did not continue, because if I had to read that ending I would have been pissed. It is, if you want to know, if you don't plan on reading it and you want to know the ending, just look up the ending, because it is wild, out of this world, and I'm glad I didn't finish it, because that ending definitely would have made me mad. And the very last book I shall be talking about is a book I just DNF'd this very, very morning, which is Blackjack Volume 1. I didn't have any expectations of this. I found it at Goodwill. It was a manga. I was like, hey, we're here. I'm here, you're here. Let's just do it. Let's just try it out. It was just, honestly, the way the art style was done was really cool, but it was just a little too graphic and weird for me. Like, it wasn't over the top graphic, but it deals with like medical stuff, but in a creepy, like almost sci-fi way. It's like really weird, and if you're into like medical stuff that turns into like sci-fi, like if you want a very visual like representation, something similar to maybe Frankenstein, then maybe, but it was just a lot of weirdness that I wasn't expecting. I expected like a doctor who does morally gray things with like finding body parts. I wasn't expecting a weird sci-fi, whatever you want to call it, aspect. I don't even know what it would be. So those are my thoughts. Not all that many thoughts, but still I wanted to talk about them. Not all of these are going to be me having the biggest and baddest opinions. It's just mostly a way for me to chronicle things that I just couldn't get into, hence the name. It's not books I DNF'd and books that are the worst and things that within the first 150 pages I wanted to throw it at the wall, because that's not the case. I just sometimes want to explain and talk about it. And for me, not finishing and DNFing books is a huge part of my reading. I DNF'd all of these within the past month. 6 books that I DNF'd within the past month. But overall, that's like 200-300 pages of my life wasted. If you enjoyed this series, let me know down below. If you've read any of these books and you have similar opinions, or if you don't, let me know down below. So that's all I got. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope I shall see you in the next one. Bye.